Good evening, everyone. We'll call the December 13th Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please join us for the pledge in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Coring,
I'm here.
Commissioner Brecken,
Here.
Commissioner Barrows,
Here.
Commissioner Franzine. Here. Commissioner Hoag.
Here.
All members are present.
Okay. All right, next item, open forum. If there's anybody here to speak towards something not on the agenda?
We do have one.
Yep. John, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. John Auger, 27821 East Bass Lake Road. I'm the Chair of the Mission Town Board, and I'm here tonight because I can't be at your last meeting to thank Commissioner Brecken for his service on the board as he leaves. Since he's provided service to our township and our district, wanted to take a moment on a snowy night, so I'll keep a short moment to say thanks. But I think it'd be fair to say for all of you and for Bill, it's been a challenging 4 years with COVID, what I'd call the somewhat manufactured post-2020 election drama and other issues, and he's approached it with respect. He's been very approachable to our township, our lake associations, and we've appreciated his thoughtful service. Being an elected official today, as you know, is not an easy job. Lots of people come at you for lots of things, and Bill has done it with dignity and respect, and we found that even if we disagree, we don't have to be disagreeable. And by the way, I know that's what we're going to get with Commissioner-elect Lubke as well. And in particular, I had a conversation with Bill at one point who said, in not these words, much kinder, on land use issues, like put up or shut up. Get involved in the process so that you're not always on the outside criticizing. We took up that challenge, by the way. We've been very active on land use issues, and our township is better off for it. So just a word of thanks for the service and wish you well in your other endeavors, and we appreciated it from Mission Township District 2. Thank you.
Oh, John, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, very kind.
All right, that's it, Teresa. Okay, next item, review and approve the minutes of the November 22nd board meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner
Second.
Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine. Teresa, roll call.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine, Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Next item, review and approve today's agenda. Any additions?
No.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Francine, second by Commissioner Brecken. Teresa, if you would.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. All right. Remember, we have 5:15 we have to go to, so if we want to. Consent agenda. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
Motion to approve.
We have motion by Commissioner Franzine,
Second?
second by Commissioner Barrows. Teresa.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. All right, our next item is a 5:15 public hearing for the fee schedule. We've got 11 minutes.
Could go to community services if that works.
Will that work? All right.
Good evening. I am here before you tonight to discuss the resolution that should have been sent out to you in your packet regarding AMC endorsing the efforts of Community Supervision Work Group and urging the legislature to pass a new funding formula and a significant appropriation during the 2023 legislative session. As you know, corrections in Minnesota has been underfunded for a significant number of years. This has been a priority both in corrections and as well as AMC across the state of Minnesota. The part of this resolution is to get additional funding as well as to support this workload study group that has been convened across the state of Minnesota. Crow Wing County is participating in that work group. We have 5 agents who are involved in that workload study currently, who are participating and gathering data that the AMC and American Probation and Parole Association will use to create a new funding formula for corrections across Minnesota. As part of that as well, we will be meeting with legislatures to talk about the need for that additional funding and what that formula will look like so that we can provide the level of service that's needed to continue the great services that we're doing in corrections across the state. And we are asking all 87 counties independently to support this resolution, and that is why I'm coming before you tonight. Are there questions regarding that
Yes,
resolution?
Mr. Chair, if I can, what kind of support do you see at the legislature already on something like this? In this
Well,
resolution?
Yes, Commissioner, this, has been an ongoing issue. Last year, we believe we were very close to moving this forward, closest we have probably ever been. And I anticipate, and just in early conversations, that continued support this year. We're hopeful with the surplus, there's even a better chance and that there will actually be some decisions made this year to move this work forward. It's long overdue, this formula change. The current formula is extremely complicated and not fair and equitable across the systems. And the state needs to do their part in funding what their statutory minimum of 50% is required. In Crow Wing County, we're currently funded at about 41%, and there are some counties that are funded at 27, 28%. And then, as you know, the county has to pick up what's left to, if we want to have that base level of service in order to provide the supervision that's necessary.
Mr. Chair, if I might continue the story about how much supervision is done by the 2 county organizations versus the DOC organization.
Yes, Community Corrections in the state of Minnesota supervises about 82% of those offenders who are placed on probation in the state.
So you can see if they do 80%, 82% of the work, but we get 41% of the 50% that the state says they will provide. First of all, they don't hold themselves to the standard of following the law, which they themselves write. And secondly, they're holding counties more responsible for these probation and oversight activities than they should. So they should participate at even a higher level than that 50%, in my estimation. But trying to get along, we're trying to bring all 3 groups together to get a more equitable formula for this. For probation. So I'm in support of this resolution. I think it's a good one. I think it's a move, like Krista said, last session, I think we made great strides. We're moving to, I think we had good bipartisan support in that. And it's just a matter of getting that final vote, and probably this year I'd be disappointed if they can't get it done. Just I'll say no more about that, but it just seems like this is the year of opportunity, so. I would hope
agree.
that we aren't just investing one-time dollars into this, that we actually are putting a formula out there that creates an ongoing shift so everybody gets a fair bite of the apple.
That was our concern as well, that this needs to be ongoing funding and not just a one-time increase in that funding that was recommended last year. We need to have that ongoing funding in order to continue to even just stay at that 50% level.
Any other comments, questions, Paul?
Nope, I'm good. Sounds like a good idea to me. I still think we need to give a list of things to our new representative, Ben. And, those brand new people, they love to bring new ideas down to the legislature. So a whole list of things would be probably in order to give to Ben.
So, Mr. Chair, with that,
Davis.
I would move the motion to approve the resolution that's attached, endorsing the efforts of the Community Supervision Work Group and urging the state legislature to pass the new formula funding and significant appropriation during the 2023 legislative session.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese?
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I have a few items for you tonight. The first is our Community Services Contract Grid. Each year, we bring forward the contract grid for those contracts involving the work in community services. With this contract grid, no new services have been added since last year. However, there are some rate adjustments that I bring in front of you today. We believe the rate adjustments are reasonable based on the complexity of the cases and the services provided by our vendors. So we just ask that you allow myself to sign contract agreements outlined in this grid.
Mr. Chair? Are there budget implications in the increases, or are these already accounted for?
These are already accounted for. We've been working on this for the last several months to incorporate in our budgeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner?
just a question. Is this, why are you going to sign these rather than the board chair? I guess is my question.
Commissioner, I have no other reason than it's because that's what I've done every year, is sign the contracts that we enter into that are specific to community services work. Often Don is a signature on some of them as well, some of the newer contracts. And I try and bring them in front of you and highlight any new contracts so you can see what it is that we're working on or working toward. But it's the way we've always done things, which I typically hate as a reason. However, it applies in this case.
If you have some suggestions of how you'd like us to consider it differently, I think we're open to those ideas. I don't think we have necessarily contemplated the question.
No.
And so if you have an idea of how you would like us to do it differently, or if you'd like to think about it and get back to us at some other time about if there's a way that you would rather us handle these, we're open to that discussion.
I don't know if there's any other way. I guess I'm just, I just want to make sure that something is, I know you're going to do a great job, but I just want to make sure that something isn't signed that comes back to the county board and it's a bad thing. I'm just trying to make sure that we have oversight, but if it's been working in the past, I'm sure it's working forward, but ultimately this falls back on the county board.
I think the risk here is not too great, Commissioner Coring, insofar
Okay.
as we have the same contracts for the same scope of services. We're just talking about a rate differential. Otherwise, we aren't talking about any other changes in these contracts.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I might, DHS doesn't have an opinion on who signs, do they?
No, just as long as I, for example, would be authorized to sign it, that would be totally fine.
Okay. So I'll make the motion to approve the community services contract grid, giving you the authority to sign.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Brecken.
One point of clarification, you should be the community services director, not just you. My motion was you, and I want to make sure that we're clear on who's signing this.
Thank you for the
you
clarity.
is.
Treese.
Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Commissioner Coring.
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine.
Aye.
Commissioner Holt.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. Tammy Lewick was going to be our presenter. She's not able to be with us tonight. The next thing I'm bringing forward is a Region 5 Plus, so for our AMHI Adult Mental Health Initiative grant for our crisis service enhancement. We have received state grants for our Adult Mental Health Initiative crisis work before. This award is new. The award will fund additional mental health crisis services and mental health services that improve our continuum of care. $273,460 for the home and community-based services, federal medical assistance percentage, and $57,224 for consolidated appropriate acts. We ask that you approve the receipt of these grants and allow Tammy Lewick the ability to sign for these two grants.
Questions?
I would make the motion to accept the grants from the Minnesota Department of Human Services for additional funding for the Region 5 Plus Mobile Crisis Team.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine,
Second.
second by Commissioner Barrows. Treese, if you would.
Commissioner Coring.
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine.
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Commissioner Holt.
Aye. Motion passes.
And the third thing I have for you tonight is our state allocation for our adult protection team. We have received an adult protection grant in the past. These are additional dollars in the amount of $2,854.78. We ask that you allow us to accept the grant from MDH for funding for the adult protection team and allow Tammy Lewick to sign for these funds.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine. Treese?
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine.
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Commissioner Coring.
Aye.
Commissioner Holt.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go back to the public hearing.
Yep.
Go back to our public
So
hearing.
we'll move back to the public hearing. Is that, Nick, do you? We're going to get back to the,
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Each year, county staff review the fee schedules that we have for each of the services that we provide that are outside the scope and direct to individuals. The look at whether or not the fees that are being assessed are appropriate for the costs that we are incurring, and then make any adjustments to those fees that may not be necessary anymore. Included in your board packet with the request for board action to approve the 2023 fee schedule is a summary of the changes that were proposed as discussed at Budget Committee. With that, we look for your approval of board action.
Mr. Chair, it would be
Chair.
appropriate to open the public hearing.
is there a motion?
Is Commissioner Coring going to?
Commissioner
Well, that's what
Coring?
I was going to say. I was going to make the motion to open the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Coring,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Brecken to open the public hearing in regards to the fee schedule. Is there anybody in the audience that would care to speak?
Oh, we got to have a
We need to
vote.
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. So excited.
Commissioner Franzine.
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Commissioner Coring.
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Holt.
Aye. Now, is there anybody in the audience?
If there's
in the
anybody
audience?
online who wishes to speak as well, just raise your hand using the feature.
Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Coring.
I move that we close the public hearing on the fee schedules.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows to close the public hearing. Trees.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, you have a request for board action in front of you, the resolution to approve the fee schedule and policies for 2023 as on file in the Office of the Administrative Services Director.
I'll make that motion.
Motion,
I'll second.
Motion to approve.
motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Brecken. Trees.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Motion passes. Well, County Sheriff, is there anybody have anything to report? County Attorney.
I don't have anything for you tonight, Mr. Chairman, but as always, I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Any questions for Don?
Thank you.
Thank you.
County Administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yesterday we held a senior management team meeting and we got an update from our continuous improvement team. It's always fun to listen to those folks talk about the work that they're doing to try to improve our processes. And so we got an update from them. We talked about some of what's happening in the labor market right now and our difficulty in recruiting and retaining staff, and that is concerning to us. And so I think we watch the turnover percents really, really closely. We're running about 13 to 14% turnover right now. And our goal, if you will, because some turnover is naturally going to occur, our goal is about 10% turnover, to manage it to 10%. That doesn't seem like much of a change, except every 1% is 5 additional postings. And the amount of time that we put into hiring people that takes them away from programmatic service delivery is growing. It means we're spending more time hiring, less time doing programs. And that is concerning. Even just for 15 additional hires that 3% would represent, that's a considerable investment of time. In addition to that, the new employee can't possibly perform at the same level as the outgoing employee, even if they've done the same job for someone else, because we do it a little differently. Most often, we're bringing in someone that doesn't have prior experience, and so then the productivity issues that are associated with that. This is nothing new that anybody else in the employment market that's trying to hire people today is experiencing. We're just experiencing it too, and it is concerning to us, so we're having a lot of conversations about that. And then we had a conversation about what's going to go into the stuffer for the mailer for the tax statements, and trying to share the wealth of 2 pages worth of real estate between all the different departments is kind of tricky sometimes, but we managed to pull it off. Happy to answer questions about that or anything else related to county government. I have a couple of other items for you as well.
Any questions?
No.
Mr. Chair, also enclosed in your packet is a request for board action related to the sale of the canine Lincoln. Lincoln was acquired as a facility dog with Sheriff Goddard as the canine handler a couple of years ago. Sheriff Goddard is Lincoln's canine handler, and with his departure, we need to consider what to do with Lincoln. We have had this issue come up in the past a number of times. I can find 2 instances, one back in '07, one back in '08, when we sold the canine to their handler. And at that time, it was for the acquisition cost. It was $1. In this particular case, I think we should charge $1, even though Lincoln was donated to us by Helping Hands. I think that's the name of the charity that does the training for those kinds of facility dogs. I think there would need to be a considerable additional investment made to train a new handler. You can't just take a dog that is trained with one handler and give them to someone else and expect that the dog is going to react to the new handler in the exact same way as the old handler. It's about the relationship between them. So if we keep them, I think there is an additional expense, probably in the neighborhood of about $1,000 associated with trying to retrain him. I couldn't, in the past, the sheriff has made a recommendation about these things. I can't very well go and ask the sheriff because that's a clear conflict of interest in this case. So I'm out on a limb here doing it myself. I'm suggesting that you follow the past practice and sell Lincoln to his handler, Scott Goddard, for the purchase price of $1.
Mr. Chair, I might also note that the incoming sheriff has no problem with that sale either.
That is correct. I talked to Sheriff-elect Klang and asked him if he had any purpose that he wanted the dog for. He said he did not. It was not his intent to continue this program. He did not have any reservations about the disposition of the dog as long as we followed the past practice.
So, Mr. Chair, with that, I'll authorize the sale of the K-9 Lincoln to his handler, Scott Goddard, for the purchase price of $1 whole.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barrows,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Brecken. Treese.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, also enclosed in your packet is a request for board action to release a portion of the ARPA funds that you had previously authorized for the Family Services Collaborative. I think when the original proposal came in, we have allocated up to $200,000 in funding for the Family Services Collaborative. I expect that they are going to have some plan at some point for the balance of those funds, but they have requested the release of $42,000 of these funds at the present time. It was reviewed with the ARPA committee, which is right now Commissioners Hoag and Brecken. We'll need a new volunteer shortly. And they didn't see any problem with releasing those funds, so they are recommending the release of those funds. In the interim, since that time, also received a request from the North Long Lake Sanitary Sewer District. They've run into cost overruns in raising the manhole covers, and they're a very small sewer system, 70 connections. And so their request is to increase their grant amount by $8,000. That was about a $58,000 grant to begin with, I believe. So I can put that on a request for board action next meeting, because I don't have one, or if you wish to move both of them at the same time, I am open to whichever direction you would like to go.
Mr. Chair, I have no objection to doing both of those at this time.
Are you looking for a motion to approve?
Yes.
Yep. So I'll make that motion to approve the $42,000 transfer to the collaborative and $8,000 to the North Long Lake
North Long Lake Sanitary Sewer District.
Sanitary
It's a
Sewer
mouthful.
System.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows,
Second.
second by Commissioner Franzine. Roll call, Treese.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I also have enclosed in your packet a request for board action to reappoint George Burton to the HRA for another 5-year term. This would be to represent Commissioner Coring's district as the District 1 representative. Mr. Chair, we need a motion for this one because I think it
Yes.
is in statute that the county board must make the appointment. So a motion would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion
I'll
by
second that motion.
Commissioner Franzine, second by Commissioner Coring. Treese.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Motion passes. And Tim, one last item.
And the last item I have in your packet, Mr. Chair, is a request for board action, and it is really to begin the citizen committee appointment process. Commissioner Brecken's going to get spared this, isn't he? So I think, I don't know if Commissioner-elect Lubke was here. I think he was earlier, but we will make sure that he is involved in the process for District 2. Teresa always puts together the list of what the committee appointments are for reappointments and where those vacancies are. So if you have questions about that, we can certainly walk through that. This is not a request for you to act today, per se, unless you are prepared to do so.
Mr. Chair, can I add a couple to the list? The ones that have yes by them were the ones that have said they were willing to serve again, and have been in contact with me or a staff member or a commissioner. And I have had some additional, since I sent out this list last week. The Extension Committee for District 2, District 5, and the at-large have all expressed a willingness to serve again. And Commissioner-elect Lubke does want to appoint Brenda Myers, or no,
Teresa Mortensen?
no, Extension Committee I'm talking about.
That is Brenda Myers.
Yes, Brenda Myers. That one, okay, sorry about that one, that's not right. Brenda Myers, I do not know if Commissioner-elect Lubke wants to appoint her yet, but she is willing to serve again. He did say that Teresa Mortensen, he does want to appoint her. So all these are chair appointments. So that was Extension Committee was added. And I did hear back from the Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District Board of Directors that the City of Crosby is recommending Sean Jarvila for reappointment, and the City of Deerwood has not had their meeting yet. So that one would be a motion. The rest are all chair appointments.
Okay.
The ones that have the yeses, it's still a work in progress, obviously.
So, Mr. Chair, do you wish to
Mr.
make
Chair.
those appointments?
Yeah, I need to
Mr.
check
Chair?
with Paul because I see he's
Yep.
representing District 5 on this spreadsheet as well, if he's comfortable with.
He's listed under District 5.
Sorry, Teresa.
Oh, gosh.
Not very often, is it?
No,
Thanks for pointing that out in public. I love that.
I was waiting for that.
Do you wish to make those
We'll,
appointments?
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question before that?
Yep.
Teresa, I did call you, and can you just remind me, who did we talk about? We talked about George Burton, and who was the other person?
Natural Resource Advisory Committee, Brad Arnold, and Transportation Advisory Committee, Jim Gaida.
Oh, yes, okay.
Are you ready for any of those yet, or not?
Jim Gaida, yes. The other one, no.
So, Mr. Chair, would you like to make those appointments?
Yes, we'll go ahead and make those appointments, and then we need a motion for which one?
The Sanitary, Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District,
okay.
Sean Jarvila to represent the City of Crosby.
Okay,
I'll make that motion to appoint,
Second.
reappoint Sean Jarvila.
yep. Motion by Commissioner Barrow, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese?
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye.
And I will just update that list as you let me know, or as other staff let me know that they've talked to the people, and then I'll let you know
Sure.
what I know.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Usually takes us through January to finish the process, so it's fine. You'll
And-
see it for a while.
Commissioner-elect Lubke has been in the process, so.
Okay. Any additional business? Anybody's? Our next public hearing starts at 6.
So, Mr. Chair, I would ask that we have a recess until 6 o'clock.
We'll take a half-hour break. Okay, it is 6 o'clock. We will bring the meeting back to order. Next on our agenda, public hearing for the 2023 budget. Nick, do you want to cue things up for us, and then we'll,
Tim will actually start us out,
or,
if this works.
We're here tonight to talk about the 2023 budget and levy. We're here tonight to talk about the 2023 budget and levy. And I know that folks come for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's about your valuation. This year, we're seeing changes in valuation that are just crazy. I've never seen anything like it in my 28-year career. What's going on with the residential real estate market, even with commercial real estate. So normally, at this point in the meeting, I would say if you're here about your valuation, we do have appraisers who are available for you. And if your primary concern is about your valuation, we're not going to talk about valuations, about a specific valuation. So if you have a question and you want an appraiser to talk to you about your specifics, we do have some available. Raise your hand, Sandra. If you may very well want to stay and have the conversation about taxes tonight. And if you want to talk to an appraiser tomorrow, that's also available. Just make sure that you see Sandra before you leave today, and she'll set up an appointment for you if that's the way you choose to go, okay? The information that we're going to talk about is on this portion of your property tax statement. We're only talking about Crow Wing County's portion of the levy, and what you're going to hear tonight is that the total amount of money that we have collected from the taxpayers of Crow Wing County has increased by 2.89%. That's a fact. That's not really the story that's happening this year, though. 2.89. We're only going to raise 2.89% more from all of the taxpayers of Crow Wing County. What's happening this year is related to valuations and the volatile real estate market and what's going on with shifts in the tax burden. We're only going to take 2.89. I know you're here because your percents are significantly higher than that. That either means the other jurisdiction has increased their amount of taxes that they are charging more than what we're seeing the norm. It also could mean that you're paying a bigger chunk of the pie. Think about it this way. Local governments are trying to determine how big is the tax pie? How much money do we need to raise? You can have a 6-inch pie, you can have a 9-inch pie, you can have a 12-inch pie. How much we're going to spend determines the size of the pie. For Crow Wing County, we're only increasing the size of that pie by 2.89%. But what valuation change is happening, we're seeing a great shift occurring, moving from some property types to other property types. What that means is someone else is getting a break. If you're seeing increases in that 25% range, I can assure you that someone else is seeing a break that offsets a portion of the increase you're being expected to pay. That stinks. I know it stinks. What we can talk about tonight is what's happening and try to explain it to the best of our ability. Legally, that's all we're here to talk about tonight. But I think we're going to have a little bit more of an engaging conversation tonight. So we want to walk you through some of what's happening with our budget and our levy. But I am well aware that that probably is not the driving factor for why you're here. And we'll try to help you as best we can understand what's happening to you. Okay? Nick, take us away a little bit and give us some idea of budget and levy and what we're doing.
That's a problem. No. That's the problem.
What?
I have nothing on my screen.
That's what my screen looks like, too. Let me go out of it and back in.
Yep. For whatever reason, it does
Huh?
that. It likes to do that.
Oh, okay, well,
Why?
here, hold on.
There we go.
Is this what we're looking at right now? Okay, good.
That's what we're at. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Tonight, we are here to discuss the budget and the levy for 2023 and request approval of that budget and levy. For 2023, Crow Wing County has an expenditure budget of $103,232,988. Part of this is offset by non-levy revenues. Those non-levy revenues account for $57,206,722 worth of income. We are also using $1.175 million worth of fund balance in both the Highway Department and in landfill and solid waste for project work. This leaves us with a property tax levy proposal for 2023 of $44,148,151, the 2.89% increase to levy. On the right-hand side, talking about the pie, this is how that pie is split up over the residential, the seasonal, commercial, and the agricultural. You can see each one of those take up their portion. That is the portion that they will eat of that $44 million levy. There was some shifts this year as a result of the significant changes in total market value. We saw a 33.13% in market value for 2023. And you can see on the graph or on the chart there, it is by far the highest amount. That shift or that increase didn't increase the amount of revenue that Crow Wing County is getting. It just changes how that is allocated over the individual parcels.
I think that's the most common misconception in property tax world is that if we increase your value, we generate more money. How much we increase the levy, how much we increase that 44 million is going to determine how much we're going to get. And so the valuation is used to figure out who's going to pay how much of the 44 million. And so when you look at that pie chart, when residential is going to pick up, go back one slide, that much of the tax burden, if something is happening with commercial real estate values or with other residential values that is impacting yours, you're going to see a shift of the tax burden, and you're going to pick up a greater chunk of the pie than you were before, even if the pie hasn't changed. We can help you with some explanations when we look at your specific statements. I hope you brought some with. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The other thing on the next slide that I want to point out, 33% increase in residential values. You can see from our own charts, we've never seen anything like this. I don't think any of us have ever seen anything like this. In a nutshell, I can tell you if your property valuation went up by more than 33%, someone else's went down. That doesn't make you feel any better, but that's what's happening. If your residential value went up by more than the 33%, chances are pretty good your taxes went up. If your valuation went up less than 33%, chances are pretty good your taxes went down. That also depends on what happens with the city, the school district, or the township, and we're only one of, multiple players in the property tax system. But this is unprecedented. It is just absolutely unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it.
Another factor that plays a role in how this impacts individual properties is how that market value change occurred. If you look at the residential and seasonal in that bottom chart there, you can see that they're over 30% increase in market value. Looking at the commercial, it's under 10% increase. This shifted some of that burden for the properties from the commercial over to that residential sector. That means they're picking up more of the pie than they have in the past. The chart on the left represents the 2022 breakout. The chart on the right is 2023's. The missing one at the bottom is the 52.0%. So you can see residential went from 51.1 to 52% of the overall pie. They're picking up 0.8% more of that entire pie. Seasonal also saw that increase. They went from 35.2 to 35.9. On the commercial side, we went from 7.8 down to 6.4. So they got a smaller portion of the pie. So they saw reductions in their levy in most cases.
Most commercial properties in the county saw reductions. And here's what you see, the portion of the tax base, who pays how much of it, 7.8% commercial to 6.4. That doesn't seem like a big change. It's 1.4%, but it's 1.4% on a $16 billion base. And commercial property pays 4 times the rate of residential property. And so when their tax goes down, it shifts more burden than if it was just happening between residential properties. Because they pay 4 times a higher tax rate than the rest of us. So when their valuations are stagnant or going down, everyone else picks up a bigger chunk of the burden. That's what happens.
Some examples of that, Cross Lake Seasonal Recreational Property for 2023 saw a 37% increase in average market value to $576,000. This caused their increase to be $100, which is a 7.5% increase. So their value went up 37%, their tax went up 7.5%. A commercial industrial property in Baxter saw a 4% increase over 2022, but sees a 20.9% decrease in their levy. That is a significant shift from them over to the residential. We also see that in the Brainerd residential homestead property, a 33% increase over 2022 causes an increase of $6 or 1.4%. So accompanied with that 2.89% increase in levy, the bigger impact has been that shift in market value. On this screen is the 10-year history for the levy increases for Crow Wing County. We did have 8 years of a negative levy or a zero levy, with 5 of those still remaining in this 10-year chart. We did have a jump in 2019 to 6.99%. This was in reaction to pressures we were facing in community services for out-of-home placements and other expenditures there. This was a reaction to that. Board direction since that point has been to work this to get it down to a more sustainable level that is palatable for the board and for hopefully the constituents as well. And you can see over the last few years, we have been moving towards a more sustainable level. The county is broken up into 6 primary service centers. That includes governance services, which is the board, the administrator's office, and the attorney's office. Public safety services is the jail and sheriff's department. Land services oversees public land management, permitting, property, tax, and a number of other programs. Highway services, as we all would guess, takes care of the county roads. Community services oversees public health and social service programs. And then administrative services is the support function for all of these with central finance, facilities, and IT. Looking at the proposed budget for 2023, the county is requesting a 4.2% increase to expenses for 2023, bringing our expenditures up to $103,232,988. As we said earlier, this is offset by a 1.3% increase in non-levy revenues of $57,206,722. We also have that fund balance usage in play, and you can look up at highway services as well as landfill and see that those are the 2 areas that are utilizing fund balance. For highway, that is based on the local option sales tax. We have built that up. This is going out now for project work. For the landfill and solid waste, they are similar. They are an enterprise fund. They build up their reserves, and then they spend those for project work. This leaves us with a $148,151 levy for 2023, which is a 2.89% increase. You want to back out and back in again, please?
This one?
Yes. Gotta love technology. It's still even missing
Still
one.
didn't do it. I'll just have to leave it like this, I guess.
It's still not showing it in there either. This chart is in place to show how the property tax is allocated across the departments. The one in orange is public safety. That is at 31%. So 31% of the levy that we are collecting is allocated to public safety services. Community services is also at 31% of that total allocation for the levy. Administrative services is an area, along with governance services, that does not have much for outside funding sources. Their primary revenue source is levy. Admin services is 14%. Governance services is 11%. Land services does have the access to outside funding. They are 6% of our total levy allocation. Highway has a significant amount of outside funding. We'll see that in a later slide. They are a 4% allocation, and then capital projects is 3%. Apparently I need to figure out something with those boxes. For total revenues, the levy makes up 44% of our total revenues. We do have $101,354,873 revenue or dollars worth of revenues projected for 2023. The levy at 44%, we have been seeing this be a smaller portion of our total revenues. Back in 2015, it was at 50%. So we are trying to find external sources outside of levy that can support the programs that we are implementing. Intergovernmental revenues, which is that light blue, is 34%. This includes state aid and federal aid. Other taxes, this is primarily local option sales tax. That is 9% of our total revenues. And then you can see our charges for services at 7%, and then miscellaneous revenues, which includes permits, fees, investment income, and other miscellaneous income, is 6% of our total revenues. On the expenditure side, we do have that $103,232,988 worth of total expenditures for 2023. Community services makes up 31% of those expenditures. Highway is at 24%, and we can see here where that $1.9 million worth of levy is only covering a small portion of that total expenditure for highway. It is coming from other outside sources in order to deliver those programs. Public safety makes up 17% of our total, and then we drop off pretty quickly down to administrative services at 7%, governance at 6%, land services at 4, capital projects at 4, and ditch fund at effectively 0%. We do have public land management as well as landfill included in these expenditures. These are non-levy based source or expenditures, so they do not come with a levy request for those. Every year we look at how we are positioned on a county tax levy per capita compared to our surrounding communities. We are once again second lowest, with Morrison County being just slightly lower than we are. In the state of Minnesota, we are 24th lowest for tax per capita of 87 counties. That means that we are in the lowest third of the entire counties for tax per capita. Another notable is for levy increases for 2023, we are 9th lowest in the state of Minnesota. So just to recap, we are looking for a property tax levy of $44,148,151, which is as well as a budget of $103,232,988 in expenditures, with offsetting non-levy revenues of $57,206,722, and fund balance usage of $1,175,320. We also include information on the homestead credit refund, as well as another refund that is available to homeowners. For the homestead credit refund, this is available to all owners of homesteaded property that have an annual income of less than $119,790 based on their 2021 income levels. This is a sliding refund based on total property taxes as well as income. The form to fill out for this is the M-1PR, which is available at www.revenue.state.mn.us. We also have a special property tax refund that is available through the state. This is available for all homesteaded property with a net tax increase of at least 12%. The net tax increase would be at the bottom of the statement. It is not based on individual lines. It is the very bottom tax increase percentage. The increase must be at least $100. There's a max refund of $1,000. There's no income limits on this, and it's the exact same form at the exact same website.
There will probably be more people qualifying for this refund this year, many of whom are probably sitting in the audience that I suspect saw tax increases greater than the 12% that refund will apply to. So this is bad salve for the wound, because it's a one-time refund. And I know that's not why you're here. We've got to figure out how we're going to fix this system, because people experiencing a 20-something% increase in their taxes in 1 year is pretty tough. It's tough for anybody. The market value exclusions, we used to exclude a certain amount of the value of your homestead from taxation. That program was put into place in 2008, 11, and we have not changed the amounts of the exclusion from taxation since then. Anybody think the real estate market has stayed constant since 2011? Goodness gracious. We could have excluded a lot more residential value from income, which would have, or from valuation, which would have prevented some of the shift from occurring. That did not happen at the end of the last legislative session. We were asking the legislature to go back into session to finish that work. Had that happened, we wouldn't have seen such a radical shift. But the real underlying story here is the radical shift in the market value of different types of property. It's something unlike I've ever seen. Mr. Chair, that is what we have for our presentation. These fine folks have come here to tell us a little bit more about their specific circumstances, and I would suggest we open the public hearing. A motion would be in order to do so.
Mr. Chair, I would move to open the public hearing on the final levy.
Motion made by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows to open the public hearing. For those that want to speak, come forward, state your name and address and the issue that you would like to discuss.
I think we got to do a roll call, don't we?
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye. Now come forward.
if there is anybody who wishes to present to
go ahead.
the board.
Can you come up to the microphone, please?
We have folks listening at home or online.
My name is Dale Ritter. I live on 6187 Sugar Bush Trail. And my evaluation went up from this year to next year 31%, which I wish one of you guys would buy my house because I'd probably sell it for that, okay? But I don't care about the value. I care about this is my home, this is where I want to live. But right now I feel like I'm getting taxed out because my taxes in the last, we bought the house 5 years ago, it's gone up from $4,000 to $6,000. It went up just shy of $1,000 from last year to this year. There isn't anybody that gets a 20% increase in their pay to help offset paying the county the tax base on that. I understand my value went up, but I still have that comes out of my pocket. And you said you guys are only getting 2.9% increase for the county. Well, my portion to you went up 20%. Mm-hmm. And I understand, okay, my next door neighbor, his value went up 61%. Mm-hmm. What's the county going to do with the extra money? But if you said you're only getting a 2.9%. Mm-hmm. If mine went up 20%, my neighbor's, I didn't ask how much his taxes went up. But if he's going up 20% or 30%, who is going down that we have to get hit so hard?
That's a great question.
On these increases? Because everybody that I've ever heard throughout the year, I don't care if it's a lake home or just a residential home, the values went up. Mm-hmm. So why did some people's go down and some people go up so much?
That's a great question. I think some of it is the valuation of the commercial properties did not rise as fast. And so your size of the pie got bigger, their size of the pie got smaller. We saw that in the examples, right? For the commercial industrial property in Baxter, their taxes went down substantially. That's probably true for a lot of the commercial properties in the county, and then the residential properties pick up the difference.
Okay.
So that's
why is that
that's the shift.
Their values went down?
Right. And
why is that?
they didn't go down. They went up slower. And I think the answer, I don't know. I don't know that I think any of us here can tell you why the market does what the market does, but I can speculate. How many of us are buying stuff online? The value of Home Depot goes down as we buy more from Home Depot online, because the value of that building is based on how much it can produce. And so we measure their value on income. Their income from the big box stores has been shedding in favor of online marketplaces. That makes their building not as valuable. And in this real estate market, they did go up. They didn't go down.
But these
They
companies
didn't go up
force
as
you to buy
fast.
online, because my wife bought a printer a couple of weeks ago at Target.
Mm-hmm.
If you went into the store and bought it, it was $75, but she bought it online for $50.
And
Does that make any sense? Now,
I'm
they
concerned
shipped it
about
to my
this,
house for
'cause-
less money.
Is that trend going to stop?
No sense to me.
I don't think that trend's going to stop. Do you? So then what's the value of the Home Depot building if everybody is buying online?
Home
Not gonna be
Depot's
worth
got a lot
much.
more money than
I
I
think-
do. They can pay more too.
I think where you can see that materialize, look at the JCPenney building. It's sat idle for how long?
So what happens with the value on that tax, on that building, because it's been vacant for 5 years, now that it's rented, does the value of it go up?
It can. If it's generating income, yes,
Well,
it
yeah,
can.
now it will be.
Yeah, and
Now they have
so
renters in
it
there.
probably will be.
Okay, I'm just kind of frustrated with a 20% increase, and now you only tell me 2.9, but if everybody takes a 20% or even let's say an average of 10%, these commercial buildings, those people are all in for profit. Because
Gotta
we need
figure
a
this
place
out.
to live. They can afford to pay more.
The market
'Cause if they
value
have to-
exclusion would have helped you.
Pardon me?
The market value exclusion would have helped you. But the reality is, I think this is a larger question. We need to figure this out, because the valuation of those commercial properties is going to continue to get shed in favor of online shopping. As that happens, a significant chunk of tax burden then shifts to residential properties.
But a lot of these online purchases come from Home Depot, come from Target, so it's still right here.
Yeah, but most of it is like the Amazon effect. There's
Yeah.
no Amazon storefront anywhere. And we're taxing Amazon for a warehouse space, which is not the same as a retail space. And so I think we're seeing the impacts of those choices of how we're buying things. I agree with you. We've got to figure that out because that's commerce.
It's going to get to the point of you're going to tax people out of their homes. They can't afford to live in that house,
I'm worried about it too.
right? I retired a year ago. My stock market went to hell, so my 401k has gone down. My property taxes go up. Everything has gone crazy. You know, how do people afford to live these days?
I think that's the question of the night, isn't it?
Okay, thank you.
I think it is.
Next, come on up to the microphone.
Mr. Chair, if you could just have them leave the green sheets up there, that'd be great.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Bickler. My wife is Carla. We bought our house on Highland Scenic Road in Baxter, fall of 16. Not embarrassed to say we paid $323,000 for it. The value of that property as of last year went to $358,000. That's doable. This year, it's been valued at $524,000. Now, obviously, I haven't sold it because I still live there, so as far as I'm concerned, the value didn't go up at all. But that's an issue that we can't decide probably here, but I think that's an issue like this gentleman was saying, is not only have my taxes not stayed the same, they've gone up just this last year as a result of the valuation from $358 to $524, $1,200. That's $100 a month, and it's probably $200 a month since we bought the house. So again, I think, you know, you can do the math on $165,000 valuation increase from last year, that's 46%. And I'm not the only one in our neighborhood that has said the same thing, and other people that I know have said the exact same thing. It isn't 20%, it isn't 10%, it isn't 15%. It's well over 40% for a lot of people. So I get it about the box store stuff, but that's another subject for another lifetime as far as I'm concerned. But I think we should also make known, and if it's news, I would like it to be said here about the homestead credit. We also lost our homestead credit because our value of our house went over $413,000. So is this little fancy program you're announcing here, if our income as retired people, less than $119,000, does it matter what our house went up to, or are we still going to be limited to no tax refund if our house is overvalued by you folks over $413,000?
There are two programs. One is based on your income and the change in valuation or tax. The other one is not based on income, and you have to have had a 12% increase in your taxes, not the valuation, your taxes.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a good chunk of you guys are going to qualify for that.
Well, from $4,200 a year to $5,400 a year is
It's more than 12%.
more than
That's
12%.
all
And that
that's
doesn't have any, then that doesn't have anything to do with the value of the house?
No.
Because the homestead credit disappeared on our tax
That's correct.
statement.
And that homestead credit that you're talking about, it's
was
now it's
minimal.
referred to as the homestead market value exclusion. And that's what I was talking about
Correct.
too. That
Yeah, it
That
was-
went away at a 400,000 in value, and 400,000 in value in 2011 was substantially different than 400,000 in value today.
Right.
And we should have indexed that.
And I don't know
for
what
inflation.
houses you find in this area that are averaging 186,000, but when you read the newspapers and look at the houses that are for sale, there's not too many of them that are under 200,000, so I don't know where they're coming from. But anyway, I am as well concerned. We lived in a community in Montana, and the same thing happened when people from California realized they could move to Montana and sell their $600,000 houses that they bought for $200,000 in California, moved to Montana, and it drove people out of Whitefish and Kalispell area. People who had lived there all their lives could no longer afford to live there. And then they thought, oh, this is great, we can sell our house for such great money. But then they found out they couldn't find somewhere to live after they sold their house. And so they moved out of state and moved somewhere else. So I think there's definitely some issues that need to be reconciled with how somebody driving around in a car can value a house as an increase of $126,000 when it hasn't sold for 5 years. If my neighbor sold their house for $500,000, then tax it for $500,000. If people down the street sold their house for $300,000 when they paid $500,000 for it, well, then it's valued at $300,000, isn't it? Because that's what it sold for. But there again, that's probably changing a system that seems simpler in thought than probably there's a lot of complexities that
Your
you have to
points are
deal
really
with.
valid.
the value, in my opinion, of my house is what I paid for it, plus what I've done to improve it. And if I haven't put $200,000 into it, it's hard for me to swallow. So, anyway, thank you for your time. Baxter taxes, by the way, went up 6%, so.
That is a contributing factor. We raised our levy by 2.89%. I'm not picking on Baxter. I'm not. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
well, we
between-
are, because we live in Baxter.
That's between
so-
you and them, not me.
And Baxter's
They
a
went up
growing county,
10%.
so,
We
So-
do have staff here too, if you'd like some questions on your valuation, so.
yeah. I know, and we don't even have
Is she out there
sidewalks in
now?
front of our house, so.
We know that there are some
But thank you for
townships
plowing
that
the roads, we appreciate
went up
that.
15 or 20%.
Thank you.
That isn't helping in this environment, and I think it's maybe based, well, I don't know. I can't comment on anyone
Anyway,
else's.
thank you for your time, appreciate your work.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Bernie Glasby. I live at 7161 Browns Lane. I bought my house in 2017 with my wife, and she passed from cancer in 2020.
Our sympathies.
I'm working 2 jobs, trying to keep it. Now this tax thing makes me look like I might lose it. I just want to agree with the other people here that this is outrageous and it shouldn't be. Very well could lose my house, and a neighbor lady who's just down a couple houses from me, hers went up 500,000. This is mine is rated at 36.2. That's an increase.
That's crazy.
Why? I mean, is there a different way that they could do this where maybe when we've had a house or 2 sell in the neighborhood, well, at least one, and they got 300 and I think 35,000. I paid 169 for mine. So, maybe we should start taxing, if that's what they want to buy it at, maybe that's, maybe those taxes should go up on the person that's actually buying it, or maybe a little bit more real estate tax on the people that are selling, or on realtors. 'Cause
I'm sorry, were
it
you
seems like
asking
a
me?
grab for money.
I know it does. I know it does. And the irony of it is,
It leaves us sitting there.
we don't
holding the
get
bag.
more money. We get 2.89% increase in the amount we've collected from everyone. And that's just a fact. And so what is happening is something other than that. City of Baxter goes up 10%, that's going to be part of it. What's happening in the residential real estate market, that's going to be part of it. What's happening in the commercial market, if you're in the city of Baxter, for instance, think about where is most of our commercial tax base.
What do people like me do when,
I think that's the question. And
yeah.
If we tax
Where do
you
we
out of
go?
your home, good God, that's terrible.
yeah,
I don't want us to do that.
no,
And
like I said, the neighbor
we're going to
lady-
have to make some changes in St. Paul in order to
yeah,
really impact these changes, because was it that gentleman there? We need some changes. We need the market value exclusion updated. We probably need some more funds into a property tax refund program if this is going to be such a volatile real estate market, because that's what's driving this.
Yep.
It's moving the tax burden all around.
yeah.
All I can tell you is we're only getting 2.89% more. You guys are clearly being impacted by more than that. I know it. I know that.
I know that neighborly, hers went up $500. She's on Social Security.
Yeah,
What is she gonna do?
that bothers us too.
Thank you.
I'd love to have a conversation with you guys about, what would you like to convey to our legislators? Because we probably would share much of what you would ask us to tell them.
Hi, my name is Jody Kennedy, and I live at 18200 Bullfrog Trail in Brainerd, Minnesota. And we purchased our home in 2011 for about $319,000, and this year our taxes or our property value, I have to say, went up by $226,000. Two-thirds the value of our home when we purchased it is our increase for just this year in property valuation. And I understand you may not be determining that.
It's crazy.
It does seem a little crazy, and I agree with all of these fine people here tonight. So thank you to everyone who came, because it's hard to come. My question is, who determines market value for commercial property? How is that calculated or determined?
Great question.
Thanks.
I'm going to try to take a stab at it. There are three methods of valuing commercial property. One of them is based on the cost of building the building, one of them is based on the income method, and one of them is based on actual sales of the buildings. You can imagine, we don't build too many of them, and not very many of them get sold.
Can you
And
repeat
so-
those three things
Yep,
again?
I will. It's the cost of building it,
Okay,
the income approach, how much income does it generate,
yeah.
or the sale of a building. And we track the sales of, say, a Home Depot. As you can imagine, Home Depot doesn't sell very often, and they don't build very often. So the most common method is the income approach. So when I tell you that their property taxes is based on how much revenue that building can generate, it's because they're valued on the income approach.
So who sets that level?
We do.
So
Now, they
what?
can, just like you, they can challenge those values.
Sure.
We have seen a trend in challenged values from commercial establishments around the state. They are asking for their values to be lowered, and they're winning in tax court. So we do that work of signing values. What are we trying to do?
What is your plan to
it
adjust
fairly.
this to balance so that the burden isn't sitting on the shoulders of your citizens who are doing the shopping in this community
I
and
wish we-
trying to keep those businesses alive and sustained?
I wish we had the authority to do something about that. We don't.
Who does?
The state of Minnesota tells us that we have to value residential properties between 90 and 105% of their actual sales. We track every sale that occurs in Crow Wing County. We monitor which jurisdiction it is. We evaluate whether or not it's an arm's length transaction, meaning if a father sells to a son, that's not an arm's length transaction. We throw that sale out. If there are interested parties, we will throw a sale out. So it's a mass appraisal system. So we take what we learn from those individual sales and extrapolate it to the system. It's a mass appraisal system. And so what you will find is properties don't move in those kinds of masses, but that's how we tax people. And so there are individual variations that people will experience. My value didn't go up that much. And you can challenge that value all the way up to asking these folks to reduce it, go to state tax court. There's a variety of ways to challenge whether you think our valuation is correct or not. I'm just telling you what we've seen in the sales that have been happening is, I keep saying the same word over and over again. It's crazy, because it is to me too. Who's ever seen a 33% increase in market value in 1 year? Anybody? That's crazy.
So how do you determine the market value of residential property?
Sales. We track sales of every.
So you have one factor.
It's the best way to determine what the current sale price of real estate is. And so if equalization is what we really strive for, if we're going to attach value to your house, it has to be based on the same standards as yours, or as yours, or as yours. It's equalization. And so our goal in setting valuations is that they're as accurate as we can get them. There's a lag. We all know that. There's a lag in the valuations. So people will tell me, oh, you've never decreased values. That's not true. In the Great Recession, valuations went down. And so we're following the real estate market. We're not setting the real estate market. We're following it. It's good questions.
Thanks. I know your job's not easy. Thank you for your time.
I really would like to tell you guys to stick around a little. We have to go through this formal stuff, right? But I really would like you to stick around so we can visit one-on-one about what's on your statement. What's happening to you?
Is it easy to figure out how to go to tax court?
Yes. Yeah, and we'll help you.
Great, because I'm guessing myself and some friends here might be joining that process. So who do I talk to first?
Me.
There it
But I
is.
would encourage, you definitely can stay here and talk to Tim. We have a whole staff right now willing to walk you exactly through how we came up with that valuation, if you have the time to do it right now. One-on-one at the counter and justify why we believe you could sell your property for what's on that statement. Please remember that valuation that's used for that proposed tax is as of January 2nd, not current value as of today, what you could sell it for. It's what you could have sold it for as of January 2nd, 2022. But I really strongly encourage folks that if you haven't visited with the assessing staff here at Crow Wing County, please do so. You may not agree, but hopefully they can give you an answer that at least you can understand.
That is available both tonight, if
Or
you're
any day.
interested,
Yeah.
or we would happily set up an appointment for you as well.
And you want this left here?
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
so we can keep track of
Thank you.
who presented.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Goring?
Mr. Stephen P. here has got his hand up for quite some time, just to let you know, here on Teams.
Okay. We can, anybody else here in the audience that wants to speak?
I just had a question. If, I live between two lakes, and one lady just had her house sell, and she got $400 and some thousand out of it. Now, would we be considered in the same neighborhood?
Yeah, you should be, because that's a sale.
But she's on the lake, I'm not.
That will be a difference.
That's a difference.
And so we do look at the characteristics of each sale.
She's
and
on
try our
Wise
darndest.
Lake.
So if someone's on a lake and someone's right across the road off the lake, those are two different standards. That's not going to be, we're not going to apply the same cost per square foot, if you will,
Okay.
to those two, because they're not the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Preston.
Can I just ask one more? There are two questions I have. One of them is, give us some examples on, you brought up Home Depot. Okay, most of the residential homes have gone up in their property taxes for next year, let's say an average of 15%. How much did Home Depot's go down in some of these other commercial properties? How much of theirs went down that we're making up the difference?
Pull up this slide.
Does it have Home Depot listed on there?
It doesn't have Home Depot. It has a Baxter Commercial Industrial property that's worth an average market value of 1.08 million.
Slide.
So it's getting close.
Okay, then my next question is, okay, what's going to happen next year? Because we all know that interest rates go up, these home values are going to come down. Because people were basically getting free money before when they bought these homes. There's a home not too far from me that the guy tore the cabin down, built a home. It was on the market for $1 million. It sold for $1,150,000. Well, that drives everybody's values up. But if interest rates are going to go up, people can't afford to spend $1.15 million on a house that's, values are going to come down. So what's going to happen with that one, especially when your commercial properties, next year, they're going to probably go down again.
Or they're going to go up slower. You know, they're still going up, but they're going up slower.
Okay.
That's the key.
But if mine was 20, Home Depot's went up 2, you only took 2.9%.
Right.
Where's the rest of the difference? Or does Home Depot pay that much in property taxes?
They pay 4 times the rate on a dollar's worth of
Okay.
value that a residential property pays.
Well, what's their building worth?
I don't know in Home Depot's case specifically, but I can give you the example of the Baxter Commercial Industrial property that's worth $1 million. They saw a decrease of $1,300, 20% in their tax, even though their value went up by 4%. Their value went up by 4%. The
Then why does the
residential real estate
residents
values
get
went up
hit
by
when these commercials are in, they make money? I live in my house because that's where I live there because that's my home.
I'm not arguing.
I don't have income coming in off my home like Home Depot does, but they get a break and I get screwed. That's how I feel.
And that's language I can't use, and I agree with everything you said except the language.
Yeah.
You're right.
Could have been worse.
You're right. Well, yeah, of course.
But you know what my point is?
Yes.
This is our homes. Like, we're getting taxed out of our homes that people can't afford to spend $100 a month more, especially if you're retired. You have a set income that you have, and now most of it's being taken away by insurance. Gas is coming down, but gas was we're really getting the best of everybody. You can't afford to drive to work anymore. My wages didn't go up when I was working. They didn't go up that much, not 20%. And that's the problem that I have. It's hard for me to understand is the break goes to the commercial people, but the people that live in their homes that are out there every day trying to make a living, I feel like we're getting taken advantage of. We got shafted.
It's how do we fund public services? And who's going to pay how much of it? And a certain burden we've decided should fall on residences. And a certain burden we've decided should fall on commercial. The market values are changing so rapidly here that we're seeing a shift that I don't know that anybody intended to have happen.
No.
It is
thought it was
happening.
gonna happen like
And
that.
I'm concerned that it might continue to happen with commercial values. I don't know, but I'm concerned about it. And so I'm concerned that the situation you experienced this year could get repeated. Good gosh.
You'd have more people trying to sell their homes because they can't afford to live in them anymore.
Right? And that
I'm
isn't
gonna
what
come
we
live in your
want.
basement then.
Right? But that's
Okay.
not what we want. We want you to stay in your home.
Okay, let's jump to some online folks if we could. Was it Stephen, I believe? Can you hear us, Stephen?
He has to unmute. Stephen, you have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
There you are, yep.
There you are.
Okay, cool. From what I've heard, I agree with all the people out there that have stood up and said something. This is the first time I've ever been in a meeting with you or been involved in this. And I live on Mille Lacs, south of Garrison, on one of the channels. My market value went up 49%. My neighbor's market value went up 40%. My tax increase went up 24%, and he's got a Rambler-style house. His went up 9%, and he's on the channel right next to me. It's hard for me to understand, even though he's seasonal recreational, there shouldn't be a difference there. If my taxes are up 24%, his value, whether it's residential or seasonal residential, should have gone up 24% also.
And Stephen, what did it go up?
Pardon me?
What did it go up? How much did your neighbors go up?
My neighbors went up 9.9%. His
Taxes
value went up 40%, but his tax went up 9.9%. Mine went up 24%, and I'm 100 feet from him. Now, granted, I'm thinking my house is of bigger value because we both have walkouts. I have a fireplace, and I have a bigger garage and a 2.5-acre lot. So maybe that's a reason, but I can't understand why his value or his tax went up 9.9 and mine went up 24. He should be 24% also. That's my dispute. Why can't you tax everybody? Now, in Crow Wing County, I understand from the assessor that I met with several months back, most of it, tax increase went up about 24%, anywhere from 15 to 30%. If mine went up 24%, then everybody should go up 24%. And these commercial properties that you see, I see no parking space in Costco. I see no parking space in Walmart. I see no parking space in Menards or so forth. So all those companies, whether it's Home Depot, they have less parking than anybody, but all those commercial properties out there, Target and so forth, you got to be getting extra revenue from them tax-wise because we're picking up the burden at 24%, in my example. Why can't Costco and so forth make up the Home Depot difference in taxation? I don't know if I'm making myself clear. You've got Highway 169 south of Garrison has needed a new highway for 100 years. And you got a highway budget there, and we haven't even got a new highway from Garrison to my place, St. Albans Bay. It's desperately needed. Now they're talking about a roundabout in Garrison. Maybe that's federal funding, I don't know.
Mr. Prince, can I give you just one point of clarification?
Yes.
Highway 169 is a state highway, and the Crow Wing County doesn't have anything to do with that, and so that is not impacting your county taxes at all.
Is that south of Garrison?
South, Highway 169, the entire length.
169, yeah, I mean, just a few miles south of Garrison.
That is still
Crow
Highway
Wing County, it's
169.
in Crow Wing County, and you have nothing to do with that, right?
That is correct. Now, the other points that
Okay.
you're raising about commercial properties, I think is valid, and I think we're having a good spirited conversation about that within the room. That is I think, a big issue for society. What are we going to do about this?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta tax these, whether it be Costco or everybody equally. You know, we're equal here. If mine going up 24%, then everybody should go up 24%. If somebody goes down 9% or only tax 9%, then everybody in Crow Wing County should go 9.9%. Whether it's seasonal, recreational, or whatever. It's not fair. I mean, fair taxation. We don't have any, well, we got representation through you people. But, you know, I'm frustrated like everybody else. I am retired. We're on fixed income, and my taxes are going to go up to $400 and some dollars. And granted, you do have that property tax refund, the MPR one form, whatever, and you can get a property tax refund as long as your income is such and such in your taxes. I fill one out every year.
Good.
Okay?
The
And
one
you
is an
also know this
annual.
year I can get the 24% increase, and I can reduce that by 12%, because there's an exclusion there, and I'll get some more money back on that. But it won't help me next year because my property value is still $313,000 compared to $211 last year.
You raised a really important point about the two different property tax programs. The one, 12%
It's a good
increase in
program.
tax is typically a one-time thing, right? You don't experience that every year. The other property
Exactly.
tax refund that Mr. Prince was referring to, based on your income. If your income is below that level, you will qualify for that refund every year. That's a better program if you can qualify for it, but the upper income limit is 119,
And you gotta be homesteaded.
and it has to be homesteaded.
Yeah, and here's another thing, our homestead value went down, like the gentleman beforehand said, it was 18,000 for a homestead exclusion. This year, it's 9,000.
So
Pretty soon it's gonna be
18,000
nothing.
18,000 of your value was excluded from taxation before. Now only 9,000 is excluded from taxation. Do you see
Correct.
do you see the erosive power of inflation in the housing market
Exactly.
and what it did to that market value exclusion since 2011? It's never been
Oh, yeah.
changed. It
Well,
should
we
have been
used to have
changed.
a big, when I sold real estate in the 1970s, we used to have a total homestead exemption. And if you non-homesteaded anything, you paid bigger taxes. That was back in the 1970s, all the way through the 80s and 80s before that. Whenever this other thing came into place, I think you said 2011 or whatever?
That's when the homestead credit went away.
Yeah, okay. See, and before it's huge if you homesteaded it. And the thing is about Garrison also, we're in the sewer district. So that evaluation of $313,000 or $100,000, I am taxed 1.55% for the sewer district on top of that. So for the sewer district, I'm paying almost $500 for that sewer. As long as, even in addition to the $60 a month we pay for the sewer. To clean up the lake? You know, why doesn't everybody around the lake clean it up and have a sewer? But no. The valuation of our property is, we pay 1.55% to the special tax district for the sewer, according to our evaluation. And everybody Like that gentleman on Browns Bay, he's paying it too, I'm sure.
So that assessment is set by the sewer district itself. That would be, it's like the equivalent of a township or another local unit of government. And so you are going to be subject to the increases in taxation that each of the local units of government have chosen to put in. I'm sure the sewer district had an increase as well. It is.
They do it every single year. We started off at, I'm going to say $20 was supposed to go into recovery fund, and I'm going to just say $20 when it all started up. Now it's up to $60, and I don't even know if there's a recovery fund in there. And now we're being taxed $489, like I said, this year, or for next year, compared to $368. Where is that money going?
We can't answer that question for you because it's the sewer district that handles that. So I can't answer the question for you. What I can tell you is we have certainly heard about resident issues with the Garrison-Cathio Sewer District over the course of time and the assessments that they are levying against you. We have heard about that. But we can't fix it for you.
Who can?
The sewer district.
Okay. Yeah. And, another thing too, I don't know if anybody realizes it, we're in the sewer district and we pay 1% for everything in the Garrison Sewer District, even on our electric bill. It's a small amount of money, but it's automatic. So that money goes in there too. A lot of people don't even know about that.
We've heard.
I went to the township or the town board meeting one time. Nobody knew about that. But thank you.
Thank you.
And all the people that are standing up, maybe we can do something for this commercial property and maybe level off everything so everybody's taxed equally. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Is there anybody else online or in-house?
I do have one more question about the calculation of seasonal properties. Many of those people now live here permanently and moved here during COVID and are no longer seasonal. So how are you assessing whether they are a seasonal property owner from the past when they came here for vacation purposes, or if they're a everyday resident?
These are really good questions. You guys
Thank
are coming
you.
up with really good ones tonight. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So how do you do that?
Sure. So seasonal, recreational residential, and just your regular residential are in the same group or bucket for valuation. So it doesn't matter if you homestead or not. In that area, basically you break it down by your municipality, and then if you're on off water, if you're seasonal or residential, you're valued the same. Doesn't affect your value if you live there or not.
I think we are a little bit concerned about VRBOs and how that is impacting
Apparently,
residential
one of my
property
people who sold the
values.
house next to me is turning it into a VRBO. And another property that just jumped up is now going to become a pile of trailers and rental storage garages that have the capacity for housing in them also. So we could have 30 new residents living next to us when we had a protected woodshed, watershed area. So I think our little zone has a few more problems, and I believe you've maybe heard from some of my neighbors.
Yeah, I think maybe I have.
Thank you again.
I think maybe I have. There are two gentlemen that have not yet spoken in case they wish to.
Hi, my name is Lane Roby. I'm from 3942 Amber Grove Heights. What I'm here for is that I have recreational property by Pine Center, and for the last 30 years it's a small piece. It was 26 acres, and now it's denoted as 24.2. So I lost like 1 3/4 acres, and I kind of wondered why that was. Maybe it was a GPS thing, I don't know. But it was, that's my main question, I guess.
I don't think we're going to be able to answer something so specific, but we do have people available who can. Where are they?
I can get them up here. I can answer this a little bit. Typically, when it comes to how much land you own, and I should talk into this, sir, sorry, it just feels weird when I talk to you, each property is drawn out per your legal description that's recorded here in the recorder's office or in land services now. And once it's drawn into our mapping system, the GIS system generates the amount of acreage that we believe you own, and that's what should be reflected on your statement.
Oh, so, well, I'm not sure exactly, I'm not really following you, but,
I think the GIS system, the advent of GIS is what probably caused the change here.
It
that
definitely,
satellite thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
and-
kind of like, I thought
really.
maybe that was
Truthfully-
maybe more accurate from the,
I don't think it's more accurate. I think it's highlighting issues that have existed with property boundaries that nobody could ever see before. And so now you can see them. So think about somebody surveys their property and they come from one section corner, and then the neighbor comes, but he comes from a different section corner. And if those two section corners are off just a little bit, everything else is going to be off. And what we have found as we put our GIS system into place is that there are many circumstances in which the legal descriptions either come up, they don't come up to each other, or they cross each other and two people think they own the same land.
yeah.
I think those issues existed forever, but now we can see them. And so, sir, I think the answer to your question is, it was the GIS
Yeah,
system.
I was just wondering, that maybe, could maybe got more accurate on the thing here, but yeah, that makes sense. And, I got one more quick question, is that the, last year it was worth, just a little over $50,000.
In value?
Yeah, and that went up to 82, which is, I guess, a good thing for me, I guess, but I was just kind of wondering, is that kind of a normal thing for, they should go up like that, 30-some thousand one year?
No, I want to say badly no, but who's to say what's going to happen with real estate market values next year?
Yeah.
I want to say no very badly, but I shouldn't.
All right, that's all I got.
yeah, and sir, not to hold you up, I'll just say, if you think of like 26 acres, typically that's probably not large enough to be much of an income-producing farm unless it's something heavily used, and I don't know if you're seasonal, so maybe more woods.
It says woods, it says 100% woods,
You know, 26 acres, those are what is being paid very premium prices for some privacy and a great building site.
Hunting land.
Yeah.
That's just what's really driving that.
Okay.
Not real large land, but just enough for some privacy and a good building site.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks, I just wanted to find that out. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online? Seeing none.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
What, did you second? Motion by Commissioner Barrow, second by Commissioner Franzine to close the public hearing, and we'll bring it back to the board. Roll call, please. Yeah.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Hold?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, enclosed in your packet is a resolution for the 2023 final budget and levy. It is included in your packet. It does come with a recommendation from the senior management team to approve. It is put forward for your consideration.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 budget as proposed.
You can follow me if you want to.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barrows. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Brecken. Treese, roll call.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hold?
Aye. Motion passes. That brings us to adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine,
Second.
second by Commissioner Barrows to adjourn. Treese?
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye. All right.